Auto-obsessed here. We have something very unique from what we usually have in the auto-obsessed detailing studio. I really think you're going to enjoy this, so stay tuned. For those that know me know I love exotic cars. Sports cars, high performance cars, muscle cars, horsepower, horsepower, horsepower. But having said that, I understand that car people enjoy all different types of cars, and it's always interesting to see the different cars that have been a part of our world. And more important, being part of their excitement is something that we've always prided ourselves in, and nothing pleases me more than to see a client light up and get blown away when we complete their car for them. So when a good client called me and said he bought a new car and would we work on it, naturally I said, of course. He then said, this isn't the usual type of car you've done for me, and how about I send you a picture first? So I'm like, okay. And he sends the picture. And here she is, a 1928 Ford Model A Coupe, and it even has a rumble seat. It has 40 horsepower, a top speed of 65 miles an hour, which to be honest, I think it'd be scarier in this at 65 than driving a supercar at 200 miles an hour. She is smelly. It leaks on our pristine floors every day. You need to be fully trained to be able to start it. But I tell you, this car has a personality, and I've grown quite fond of it. After the car spending some time at Auto Obsessed, and to be honest, myself becoming just a little bit attached to it, I called the owner to ask if it'd be okay to do a video with it and share with our audience some of the things that I think are really, really cool. He said yes without hesitation, and I'm pleased to be able to share the car with you. So it's a little hard to get into. There's not a lot of room. I think they were a lot smaller 100 years ago. So let's take a look at the controls. You'll notice the dashboard. There's no heater. Air conditioning, yeah, right. Radio, nope. Backup camera, definitely not. Navigation, nope. It does have a key switch though. So, okay, let's see if we can remember all this. So the first thing we have to do is we have to turn on the fuel, okay? It has some of the same pedals you'd see in a normal car. Obviously this is nowhere near a current car because a current car would be a one-button push start. So we don't have that luxury here. Almost 100 years ago, this is the way it was. They built almost 5 million of the Model A's. This particular one's a 1928 Model A Coupe. So once again, so let me see if I can remember all this. On the steering wheel here, we have the ignition timing. On this side of the steering wheel, I have the throttle, and this is what we'd use to drive down the road. We'd adjust that one. This is the headlights here, and this is the horn button. We turn on the fuel to get it started first. I'm going to pump it with some fuel, put in the clutch. Clutch is in the same place. Make sure we're in neutral. Now the starter's interesting. There is no, it doesn't do anything. So the starter, it's a little awkward. It's actually behind the brake pedal, and it's just a push. So we're just gonna give this old baby a crank. On the right here is kind of this little stub, and it's the gas pedal. And that's what we'd use to get the car moving forward and back, and then afterwards we'd use the steering wheel control. So you can see she runs pretty good. Maybe doesn't sound the best, 40 horsepower, but she cranks right up. It's actually really, really, really easy to drive. The rest of the comfort features in here, as I mentioned, there's no heat or air conditioning. The front window opens straight out, so you can have airflow through here. The windows roll down. The windshield wiper, this one has an electric windshield wiper. Some of them had manual. And that was about it. If it was cold, so today where we are in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, it's minus 31 outside right now. So a car like this, you would have to have lots of blankets. You would have brought in some bricks from the stove that you would have heated up to keep some heat in here. Don't ask me how you'd keep the windows clear from frosting up, because obviously there is no defrost. But that's how they did it. That's how they did it 100 years ago. And what's really cool about this is I think about it and go, can you imagine if this car had a dash cam? Like, what stories would this car tell us? Who rode in the car? What terrain it, what terrain it drove through? Where did it go? What did it do? How many times did it get stuck? How many times did it get broken down? So a lot of really, really, really cool things. And it's just kind of interesting. Another thing that that I think would hold true is 100 years from now, this car would still be able to operate. There's nothing to it. It's very, very simple. It would turn over just the same way it does today. So I hope you enjoyed this segment of it. We're going to take a look now at the outside, and I'll show you some of the other cool things that I think are really, really, really neat with this car. So in the front here, this would have been where the crank starter went. You would have just opened up this door, put the crank in here, and cranked the engine over. So probably that's where the term crank the engine over came from, was literally cranking the car. It probably would have been a two-person thing, one person inside the car probably to control the ignition timing and the fuel, and then the poor person outside the car that had to crank it over. Hopefully there was no backfires or kickback. It'd rip your shoulder off, I'm sure. So this car doesn't have that. This car has an electric starter system. The headlights here are kind of another notable thing. So the headlights in this period would have been kerosene. So there was a kerosene tank inside the car. Yeah, that would be kind of odd, wouldn't it? Kind of dangerous. Kerosene tank in the car. Kerosene tank inside the car would have fed the headlights. You would have literally light the headlights, light them up to go for a night drive. The horns here, we'll show you that a little bit later. That's one of my favorite things on this car. We'll talk a little bit about what we did to the car as well while we're here. So new to the owner, so the owner just bought the car and it came virtually directly here. He wanted the car to kind of be spruced up a little bit. It was in very good shape. Was restored likely many, many, many years ago. So there's certain things we can't do to the car to do radical improvements like we do to a more modern car or more of a pristine restored car, for example. But we did a full decontamination wash, went through everything, did the engine bay, did the wheels, as much as the suspension that we could. Polished some of the chrome, polished the headlights. We did a light paint correction on the paint to take away some of the light scratches and swirls to give it a more deeper black. Finished it in Swiss Wax Obsessed to give it a beautiful gloss, make it really slippery and easy to maintain. So hopefully the owner will spend less time maintaining and more time driving. We'll just come around the side here and check some of the other things out. So here we have what I think is kind of cool. They're a 21-inch wheel. And if we think about that, this car is almost 100 years old. It took us almost 100 years to put 21-inch wheels on our modern cars. So they did that back in the 20s. I would assume more to get over the rough terrain that they would have drove on. The engine bay here, so it has two sides. So the hood, there's two kind of spring-loaded clamps here. You open it up, fold it over onto itself, and then we have a very simplistic engine bay. Very, very simple, so it would have been easy to keep it running and keep it maintained. It has an original engine in it. It's a flathead Ford 4-cylinder. The distributor sitting up here, and what's kind of neat is these spark plug wires are just pieces of copper connecting to each plug. So once again, very, very simplistic, not a lot going on here. Very easy accessible, both sides open up, and I can imagine there would have been a lot of wrenches in its day turning this engine. So let's go around still. Here we got the running boards, and to me when I see these running boards, first thing comes to my mind is hang on to them with a Tommy gun. No, that you shouldn't do that. But anyways, beautiful, beautiful running boards, a little bit of aluminum there to step on. These side deflectors, the owner said that they came with the car, but this particular, there's some acid etching. A little diagram here, some wheat, and I guess that was a $5 option at the time. Has a sun visor, has the vinyl roof. So we did a few things for the owner. Did some shampooing of all the fabrics, the door panels, the headliner, the back parcel area. The vinyl, cleaned and protected the vinyl. Cleaned the rubber mat. So there's a lot of grime actually. There's a lot of dust and debris in here. So we cleaned that all up, made it more presentable. So it came out very, very well. Polished some of the aluminum parts. One thing I thought was kind of neat is the door latch to open the door. So this basically, most of the old cars had kind of a pull-up lever to unlock the door. This one here, you pull it up. So to close the door, you would naturally want to grab that, but it has this little indentation here, this little tab, and you pull on that to close the door. So that's kind of a neat little thing. We're looking up some parts for the car on the other side, and just when I was on the site for some parts, this here, I found out that this here is a glove pocket, which was kind of neat to put your gloves in. Coming around to the back of the car, so we cleaned up the white walls quite a bit. So the old white walls, you had to scrub them really good to get them nice and white. They definitely weren't that white. Cleaned up the spoke wheels. So one of the things at the back of the car, one of my favorite things is the rumble seat. So we showed that earlier in the beginning clip. But to me, this is one of the coolest things about the car. So you open it up. To get into it, there's a pad here and a pad here, and you base it an aluminum pad, and you stand on the bumper and you stand on this pad. It's got some grips on there so you don't slip, and then stand on the seat and get in. And I was thinking earlier today, as I mentioned, we're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It's minus 31 right now. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to go to go about your day, jump in the back of this in minus 31 with obviously no heater in the car, but also being completely open. But it would be a real treat in the summertime on a nice sunny day. I'm sure the kids loved it. One of the things I know for me, my father's really into classic cars. He's a fanatic on the 1957 Chevys. He's got a number of those, and through my younger years, we do all the car shows and swap meets, and I would see some of these cars and always say, Dad, you know, we should get one of these cars with a rumble seat. But he wasn't really into the 20s, 30s cars. He was more into the 50s. But maybe that's one of the reasons I like this car so much. But the rumble seat, I think, is one of the big features on this car. But with a rumble seat, you'll notice we have no trunk. There's no place to put anything. On the inside of the car, there's nothing. There's a kerosene tank, gas tank in the front. So there's no room for anything. So where do you put your luggage? So this here is a foldable luggage tray. So basically you just unclip the clips, fold it down, you'd put your trunk or your suitcases or whatever it was, the boxes or bags or whatever you had, you'd put them on the back of the car, fold this down, tie it up on the hooks there, and away you went. When you're done with it, it just neatly flip back up. Had a couple levers here to make sure that it clicked back in and didn't fall down. And kind of some really neat features on this car. So it's kind of neat. Kind of some of the things that we don't see anymore. Pretty cool. Pretty cool to share that with you. I really want to thank Mike for allowing me to share this car with you. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and be sure to hit the notification icon to get notified when we release new videos. We will be releasing new videos soon, so don't miss out. Thank you for watching.